This is the story of how and why I've never seen any of the major movie franchises ever made. As many of you know, a few months ago I decided to start this challenge where I would watch every single superhero movie in order. I filmed my reaction, I put it up on TikTok, and for some reason that series blew up. I was really surprised because I've never had content do that well before in my life, but people really enjoyed seeing someone watch through it for the first time. And since that series did so well, I wanted to build on the momentum because I love movies. I absolutely love making content. It's my dream to be a content creator who talks about movies, so I'm like, bam, why don't we just keep doing shit like this? So then after I went through 100 superhero movies, I recently started watching through all the Star Wars movies. And believe it or not, I haven't seen those either. And then a few days after starting the Star Wars series, I saw a few comments here and there from people basically saying like, bro, you're lying. Like, there's no way you haven't seen these movies. And a lot of people thought that I was just making all this shit up for the sake of content and that I had actually watched them and I was just faking my reactions. So this video will be the place where I address all of that stuff and also talk about why I've never watched any of them.
Because I genuinely haven't.
And I don't know what else to say. If people don't believe me, there's no way I can go back in my memory and replay my whole life for you guys to see that, but I'm gonna try and break it down for everybody. I know it's really hard to understand for some people on the internet nowadays, but different people have different interests. And believe it or not, there are some people that don't like the same movies you like. It's crazy, right? I know, it's unbelievable. I grew up in a family where the main things we did was play basketball, go swimming, and play fucking board games. And then for me in particular, I also got really addicted to video games. Movies just were not really a part of the picture growing up. You know, I saw Elf probably like 35 times, but other than that, I don't have any vivid memories of seeing movies as a child. Like obviously, you know, we'd go see some here and there for like my dad's birthday. We'd go to the theater and see a movie, but it was never like a big part of our life. It was just a thing you did if you wanted something to do on a Sunday afternoon. And I also just didn't really care that much about movies. I never got invested like a lot of kids did with the superheroes. I didn't grow up reading the comics. I've literally never read a comic in my entire life. My family's go-to things was go to a basketball tournament all weekend, and then you go to school during the week and then play some video games when you're home from school, and movies just weren't part of it. And on TikTok, a lot of people have commented like, bro, this guy has a horrible childhood or he grew up in a cult. There's people that are like, bro, there's absolutely no way your parents didn't show you these movies growing up. And to that, I say you're wrong because they didn't. So there's that. But I also don't feel like I missed out on anything. I had a great childhood growing up without being into movies, and eventually I had a transition where I became really into movies. And that transition happened right around the end of high school when I got really into filmmaking because I got into YouTube and I was intrigued by vloggers and people like Casey Neistat. And at the time, I thought I wanted to go to film school because I was like, okay, vlogging, cameras, videos, like I loved videos on YouTube and I made a bunch of my own videos. But I still didn't know anything about movies at the time. So I actually applied to a ton of film schools even though I wasn't really into movies, and believe it or not, I got into one called Azusa Pacific University. It is a tiny private Christian school in Southern California. Don't ask me why I went to a Christian school. I don't know. It was the only one I got into and I was like, fuck it, let's send it. So I went to film school knowing absolutely nothing. I didn't know any people there. I was a fish out of water. And fortunately for me, the first friend that I met named Anthony, who to this day is one of my best friends. He's probably watching this video right now. Fortunately, he was in my orientation group and I literally met him the first day and he was so nice, so outgoing, and it turns out him and I had the exact same class schedule. And he was a giant movie nerd. So for the first few months of college, when I was kind of depressed because I didn't really have any friends other than him, all that I would do was edit videos and then hang out with Anthony and talk about fucking movies. And he just couldn't wrap his head around the fact that I hadn't seen Star Wars, I hadn't seen Harry Potter, I hadn't seen any of the superhero movies, I never watched Indiana Jones, no Star Trek, no fucking, like half the big animated movies, maybe 3/4 of the big animated movies I hadn't seen. I hadn't watched any of the classics, had never watched The Godfather, Citizen Kane, Saving Private Ryan. That's just to name a few. I literally just wasn't in this world. And even for the first couple months, I didn't really see the hype. Like my logic was, why do I want to sit down and watch a movie for 2.5 hours that I'm probably not not going to remember that much. It's probably going to be pretty average, and then after that, I move on with my life, and it's as if I had wasted 2.5 hours. I didn't really see the value. I didn't get the huge appeal of movies. But slowly, Anthony convinced me to create a watch list, and he would recommend certain movies that I absolutely must watch. And in some of my film classes, our literal homework sometimes was to watch particular movies and then break down certain scenes and like talk about those scenes in class. And what do you know? I became a huge fan of cinema, and I just went on a deep dive and watched a ton of classics. But my particular interest has always lied in deep philosophical artsy films. The films that you watch with your friends or family, and then afterwards they're like, what the fuck was the point of that? Or that was stupid. Those are the movies that I love. Those are the ones that really get me going and make me want to like talk about it and analyze it and understand what's the deeper meaning, what's the theme that the director's trying to tell you about life. How come I connect so strongly with this fictional character that I know was written by some person, but they feel so real to me and they make me so emotional that I can start crying sometimes. Those are the things that got me really addicted to watching film. I spent my first few months of my freshman year of college watching a classic film every single night. It was as if I had unlocked this whole new world and this whole new passion that I didn't even realize existed or could exist. As a kid growing up, I had never watched the type of films that I discovered in college. I never had watched these really dense, deep, emotional character pieces that, for my personal taste, really impact me. The movies I watched growing up were never movies that made me contemplate life or think about a bigger picture or reevaluate why I view the world the way that I do or put myself in someone else's shoes that's going through a really hard time. Like, all of these really difficult but important philosophical questions were never in the movies that I watched growing up. Just to give you an idea of the films that I love now, like, I have a list of my top 20 favorite movies of all time, and I'm gonna rattle them off real quick. I am gonna make a whole video on all these films later, but I'm gonna guess a lot of you guys watching this video have never watched probably half of these, and maybe some of them you've never even heard of. So this is going from number 20 to number 1. Synecdoche, New York, Donnie Darko, The Invisible Man, American Honey, The Big Sick, Into the Wild, The Disaster Artist, Birdman, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, Captain Fantastic, Planet of the Apes, Saving Private Ryan, The Truman Show, The Pursuit of Happiness, Split, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Whiplash, Break, Memento, and Good Will Hunting. Yes, Split is my 6th favorite movie I've ever seen. A lot of people are gonna think I'm fucking psychotic for that one, but I loved it. I don't know what to say. Also, let me make this very clear. I have a different list if I'm talking about what I think are the best movies, but these are just my personal favorites. A lot of those films are just one-off, individual, standalone films. A writer had an idea, wrote a script for a contained story, and then a director got to make that movie, and then after they made it, that's it. It's done. There's no sequels, it's no trilogy, it's not a big franchise. And for a few years, I was trying to catch up and watch all these amazing films that had came out since the fucking 1950s that I just had never watched. And to be totally honest, I never even had the urge to watch any of the big franchises. Every time a big new superhero movie would come out or a new Harry Potter movie would come out, I saw the hype. Like, I heard people talking about it. I could have watched it, but I just didn't want to. And they don't do anything for me emotionally. And I'm gonna be honest, after watching all of the superhero movies, I can respect them. I do understand the genre a lot more now, and I really do see why people love them. And there are some of the superhero movies that I do genuinely love, like Split, like Doctor Strange, The Dark Knight, Logan, basically every superhero movie that was in my top 10 on TikTok. But with that being said, I would never choose to watch a superhero movie over a new indie film that I want to watch, or any of the top 20 movies on my favorite list. Like, I would never want to watch a superhero movie instead of that. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. It's just, to me, I don't feel anything when I watch them. Like, I can respect it, but that's just not my thing. The same way if I play fucking Tupac for my grandma, she's probably not gonna be a huge fan. And probably the same way my buddy Anthony is not gonna want to sit down and watch the NBA playoffs with me. If he doesn't want to watch the NBA, it doesn't mean mean that he's shitting on the NBA and thinks it's horrible. It's just he has different interests. And holy shit, I don't even know why I'm explaining this. Like, I can't believe this is gonna be a fucking 20-minute video of me trying to explain to you guys that I hadn't seen some movies. But here we are. As I've been learning about film over the years and watching interviews and reading books, I'm currently reading a book about Terrence Malick's film career. If you're watching this video and you don't know who Terrence Malick is, he's one of my favorite filmmakers, and I highly encourage you guys to watch his films. I'm not gonna say you're gonna like him, because if you like a lot of the superhero movies, you probably aren't into his style of artsy filmmaking. But my point is that I've learned that I like realism. I like films that are character pieces, or there's actually a term I learned recently called slice of life. So like slice of life books or slice of life movies. I connect with seeing a random human being that feels real in an environment that I could see myself in. A lot of people like to go to the movies to turn their brain off, watch some cool action, have a good time, eat some popcorn, and that's fine. That's totally cool. I can respect it. But for me, I want to dive deep on philosophical topics. I want to internally reflect and think about the way I view my life and honestly just ponder difficult questions. And I can confidently say after watching all the superhero movies, I don't feel that from most of them. And that's okay, because they are what they are, and I know that going in. So if I'm gonna watch one now, like, that's okay. So I don't know. At this point, I feel like I'm kind of rambling. I feel like I've got my point across. The last thing I want to say is there were a few comments that said like, oh, you can't consider yourself a film nerd if you haven't seen all the big franchises. And to that, I would say I entirely disagree. The same way someone could be a huge video game nerd and never play Pokemon or Call of Duty. I still think you can be a video game nerd if you haven't played the big games, because the big games just don't interest you. If you want to see the films I've watched and get an understanding of where I'm coming from and why I feel like I'm passionate about film, you can follow my Letterboxd account. If you don't have a Letterboxd, I highly recommend getting the app. It's really cool if you like movies. It's basically the best social media for film lovers. It has every movie ever made. You can rank them, you can make lists, you can make a watch list, you can do reviews on there, you can connect with people and follow people. So my username is Hey Narwhal, the same as my TikTok and everything else. But yeah, there you go. That's the reason why I have not watched any of these big franchises. I plan on doing a TikTok series on Harry Potter very soon. So that's all I gotta say. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was pretty long, but if you did watch it all, thank you so much. Be sure to drop a like and leave a comment down below. Also, I really do want to expand my content as soon as I get through all these superhero movie reviews. I'm not stopping those. I just needed a little break to regroup, and I wanted to make this video to address some of the comments. If you guys enjoy my content, it would mean the world if you left a comment down below. It really helps the channel grow, and I love talking to you guys. I would also love to hear what type of other content you guys would see after I finish all the superhero movie reviews. I do really want to expand because, as you can tell, I have passions outside of the big franchises, and there's a lot of independent films, and honestly, there's movies that I think are some of the best movies ever made that 90% of people I know have never even heard of. So I really do want to talk about films like that, but I also have to find a happy medium between content that has the potential to grow and perform well, as well as the content that I'm passionate about. But yeah, my Thor Ragnarok video will be out very, very soon, so be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.